Once I get this, so I can present it this way on the screen, I lose the page numbers. I can't see the page numbers anymore, so. So the fulfillment of the prophesied gospel is occurring. That's what's happening as John is there on the Isle of Patmos. And it will continue to occur in a mysterious and unexpected manner from the human perspective. What that's talking about is the gospel being fulfilled, and in a way that no one would have anticipated. The idea that you would have the Son of God crucified on a cross in our place to provide salvation, nobody would have predicted that. So it's presented, it's called a mystery. The Greek word is mysterion, and it's usually in the New Testament, when they use that word, they're talking about some prophecy from the Old Testament that is being fulfilled in a way that could not have been anticipated. I don't think anybody in the Old Testament had the idea that God would send his son to die in our place. I just don't.
Isaiah came pretty close.
Well, he did, didn't he? But as was the case, too many folks in Israel took Isaiah too seriously, sadly.
Could that also not be referring to John when he all of a sudden got like he was brought up to almost see what was going on in heaven, and he had no idea when he was in that small cave,
Yeah.
And
he's dealing with the fulfillment of the gospel. The gospel was promised in the Old Testament. It's how you look at the Old Testament, is it all points to that thing that God was going to do out there in the future. And of course, we know we live on this side of the cross. And so the idea that the prophecy will be fulfilled the way it was, and the idea that our mission, our goal as Christians, is to follow Christ in that suffering. Not that we're going to get crucified, but we win victories for him through our suffering. Our testimony remains strong. People around us are going to beat us down because of that, but it is a victory. There's all sorts of ways that we get crucified. By the world around us, and when we do that and we remain faithful, we win victories for Christ. And so that's the background that we're talking about here. Nobody expects that getting crucified is the way you say it. Everybody's going to be saved. Yeah. That victory came about in a absolutely completely unexpected way, and so it's called a mystery, and that's what we're dealing with. So the suffering of the saints will give way to their eventual vindication. That suffering is our suffering as we follow Christ. Jesus said, if they hate you, don't be surprised they hated me first. And so that's how it's going to be for us.
You ever thought about John, where he is writing his death? Do you think he is, am I nuts? Or is this real?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, John's a human being, converted.
Yeah.
And now he's experiencing this thing. Now, all of us don't experience it maybe to that degree, but we do experience it. And when we experience these experiences,
Mhm.
do we think, is this right? Is this real? As a human being, you seem to me, you've got to have that questioning about what you're receiving, or am I receiving, or is this me, or what is it?
Yeah.
But this is to me just unbelievably incredible.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, John, do, do you really think this is right? Did he think that?
Yeah. He's an old man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yikes, something.
That's getting close to.
Yeah, just like us, old guys.
he's an old guy and he's being persecuted. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
that.
right.
Um,
He's not living in luxury.
no. And so did he understand what he was going through
Not
be-
totally.
to be a part of that mystery? He probably did, but did he understand it completely? I don't imagine
Well, I
that he
think
did.
his big challenge was, or read it somewhere, that when you get up, you're at this level, and all of a sudden you're basically going up there at God's level. For him to turn around and be able to have the level of knowledge or expertise to explain something that he had never been confronted with at that level, everything that he saw and heard had to be a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that not right?
I suspect it is, Fred. Language was a gift to us from God. Apart from him gifting us, we would not have any language. He chooses to communicate with us in the language that he gave us, the languages that he gave us. And so there's a limitation there. We use words to describe things that we know, but how do we describe things that we've never seen before and that we have no words for? That's John's
That's what I'm
problem.
talking about, yeah.
That makes in my mind, Fred, that makes a really strong case for inspiration of the scriptures. That God caused him to write the words that he did, in spite of his lack of understanding.
And to have no errors.
And to be error free. Yeah.
Right.
So he sees what's going on. Much of this book refers back to Daniel, and Daniel's. If you study Daniel seriously, the last 3 chapters of Daniel are really difficult. They talk a lot about. They're used a lot to talk about different theological positions, the pre-trib, post-trib, millennial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
And when you read it, it's symbolic. It's intended to be symbolic. It's presented as symbolic. And so we struggle with how to understand the symbols. We're stuck in that place where we don't have the right words. We don't have words to describe what needs to be described. But John is understanding in this section of text that we're in right now. John is understanding that what's happening now is what was promised to Daniel. Daniel was told to seal up his prophecy, that he couldn't teach past a certain point. And so he sealed it up. And now we're unsealing books. And John is beginning to understand that what's being unsealed is what Daniel sealed up. So,
which gives him practical faith.
yeah,
Notice my term there, practical faith, for him to continue. If this is true,
Yeah.
then this has the potential for truth.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like it's in 3 parts.
Yeah.
Daniel covers one part and he stops. John picks up and stops. And then when you see Christ, he's going to finish up the end deal.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's an enormous amount of theology that's based on these things that that John's describing here. And it's, we hope we're legitimate. We hope we're doing it properly. I think we are. But we don't understand all of it yet. And John is in a unique position because, first of all, he walked with Christ. He lived through the period of time when Peter would have been put to death. He lived through the period of time when Paul probably was put to death. Peter and Paul are gone at this point. Who knows where Mary is?
And he can't keep up with anything because he's stuck right where he's at.
And he's probably the last living apostle. And so he's now receiving revelation. That apostle has a big A. It's a big A apostle. He's receiving prophecy in the same way that the Old Testament prophets received it. And he's doing for us what the Old Testament prophets did for Israel. He's pointing to our future. If you were an Old Testament person, what you needed to believe was that God was actually going to do that thing that he was promising out there in the future. And you and I can look and say, here's the promise of it. We can read Isaiah 53 and say, there's the promise of it. We can read the Gospels and say, there's the fulfillment of that promise. Now we're living with the promise that if you receive the gift of the cross, if you receive Christ's sacrifice on your behalf, you will be saved. Well, is any of us fully saved? Not yet. It's a promise for my future. Someday I'm going to stand face to face with Christ. That has to be fulfilled. God promises that. I can look back at the cross and say, you know what? God knew the plan and he had Isaiah write it down. And then he sent Jesus, and Jesus completely and fully fulfilled that promise. Right. And so I know that God does fulfill his promises. I can then turn and look at the promise I have and believe and trust that God's going to put me face to face with Jesus.
That's where the trust is earned.
Yeah. Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. I must believe God, and it will be credited to me as righteousness. I will one day be like Christ. That's a long way off.
I didn't remember. I remember standing inside the room. When you walk across, and then you went into the actual cave, and you saw the small hole in the rock there where he could look out over the water. But once he got all this revelation from Christ through the Holy Spirit, I'm sure working with him as well. How did he actually? I can't remember. How did he actually get out of there to go deliver some of this message, or was it just written?
It was written, and I suspect.
Who carried that out though? Once, because I just can't remember all this stuff anymore.
I don't know who carried it out. It has to have been carried out, and God had that happen. But I don't know.
Or it would have stopped right there, right?
Exactly. So, can we trust God? Has he fulfilled all the promises from the Old Testament? The life of Christ fulfills over 600 prophecies from the Old Testament. That's a pretty good record. The prophecies that have about Christ that have not yet been fulfilled are prophecies about the future. Is he coming again? It's promised. Do I believe it's going to happen? Because God promised it, I do believe. Because it will glorify God. Once all of this is completed, for eternity, every created being, angels and other created beings, will worship God because of what they see has happened to us. God has redeemed us. And what an incredible thing that is. Is there a good reason for God to redeem us? The only reason for God to redeem us is that he loves us. He created us and he loves us.
And the son paid the penalty.
Yeah, there's nothing about me that God should desire me, except that Christ died in my place and God created me. That I am redeemed will give me the substance of my praise for eternity. That God redeemed my wife and I'm there with her in eternity, will give me cause to praise and glorify God for eternity. The fact that we will be returned to a place where we are free to walk with God, free to commune with him, just like Adam and Eve did in the garden before they started picking things in the orchard. It will cause all of us, every created being for eternity, to worship and praise God. That's what all this is about, God's glory. And so, do I feel used in that? Yeah. Do I feel glad that I'm being used? Yep. Do I feel glad that I'm going to enjoy eternity in the presence of God, in the presence of my loved ones who have received him? It's a reason for me to glorify God forever. And that's what I'll do.
And that's hard to understand.
Yeah, we are within a really limited
What that
perspective.
means for forever in terms of time.
Yeah,
Maybe we won't have the problem with time we have now.
yeah, yeah. There's the Old Testament keeps talking about, in Hebrew, the phrase is the end of days, ba'achari hayamim,
Oh, yeah.
the end of days. We live in the end of days. When it talks about the period of time that is the end of days, it's talking about that period of time between Christ's resurrection and his final coming. So we live in the end of days, but also in the end of days, there is tribulation. I think we can all testify to that. There will also be a coming of Christ. There will be a general resurrection. There will be judgment. All of those things that we're going to see in the last 3 chapters of the book of Revelation, all that's going to happen, literally going to happen. And we are privileged enough, as we struggle in the midst of all of this, in the midst of the tribulation, we're privileged enough to know that it will happen, that our strife is not in vain, that there is a reason for us to continue to believe God and continue to testify. There's a reason for us to do all of the things God asks us to do. And that reason is that one day I will live with him and be like him. Got a message last night. A lady named Rosemary Jensen died on May 31st. Rosemary and her husband Bob spent 20 years in Africa as missionaries. They built a magnificent hospital there. Afterwards, Rosemary became the leader of a ministry called Bible Study Fellowship. She led that ministry for about 20 years. And after fulfilling that ministry, she started what we now call Rafiki. And Rafiki has been building schools and orphanages in 10 different African countries now for well over 20 years. My friend Tom, that I continue to talk about all the time. I know you guys get tired of hearing about my buddy Tom. He and his wife were just here. They visited us for several days. Tom's on the board of that, and he told me this time, which is literally just 2 or 3 weeks ago, he told me that Rosemary is 96 and she comes to work at 8 o'clock every morning. She stays all day, and she's the one that leads the board meetings for the ministry that is operating 10 schools and 10 orphanages in 10 different countries in Africa. I've been able to watch through Tom the kids that started in that program, the first kids that started in that program are now graduating from college. Rafiki, if they do anything at all well in school, K through 12, Rafiki provides them scholarships and they go to college. Many of them come to the US to go to college. And the purpose of that is that they will go back to their country and lead a Christian life and bring Christianity to their own countries. And those kids are doing it. Those kids are incredible, what they're doing. The same thing is beginning to happen with the ministry in Indonesia that I'm part of. They just this last week they had 2 kids admitted to colleges. One the University in Medan, the other one the University of North Sumatra, I think. But those kids, they had. This gives you a picture of what those kids are like. They had one of them wanted to get into the military, and in Indonesia, getting into the military is a hard thing. You usually end up on a waiting list for about 5 years. When they tested this kid, they brought him in immediately, and they have pictures of this kid walking around in his barracks in his uniform with a sign that says, "I graduated from Peniel Christian School in Medan, and I went to college because of the education that I got from the Peniel Christian School, and I am admitted into the Army because of that education." He's walking around the barracks with this sign. He's not.
Sam Bittman was really proud of him, isn't he?
Yeah, you better believe it. All of those kids, though, all of them, there's no hesitation at all. There is zero hesitation for them to say to anybody that will listen, "I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, and this is what happened in my life. I'm a Christian, and that's why I went to this school, and they made me into a Christian, and I'm proud of it. And I want you to understand that you can be one too, that there's no hesitation." They do it all day, every day. We went to, when I was there this last time, Pancha he wanted to take me out for pork.
Pork.
Bacon? And it was a big building under you and I would call it
Smoked the hog, huh?
We went in there and the place is full of Muslims eating pork. And it's a big place. It's like a barn. And up in the rafters at the front of it, where the kitchen starts behind it and eating sections out here in the rafters, this incredible tapestry of the Last Supper.
Really?
Yeah. And Pancha asked the waitress, he said, "Do you know what that is?" And she said, no. And Pancha made her stand there while he explained to her that guy in the center was Jesus, and Jesus died so she could be free and have eternal life. He wanted her to know that now, right this minute. I need you to know who he is. I want you to be able to be saved.
Is this a government building or was it
No, it's a business.
but it was a visit.
Yeah.
What was the owner of the building Christian, apparently, for that to get up there?
I have no idea, Fred. Whether he put that up there not knowing what it was, whether it was up there before he got the building.
Well, Muslims aren't going to put that up there.
Well, not if they know what it is. So, I mean, so anyway,
It's interesting.
the gospel is growing like crazy in these places. Same thing's true in China, although in China they got a lot of government interference with what's going on. But the prophecy about the gospel is being fulfilled. What God said to the prophets in the Old Testament about what was going to happen on the cross and about what was happening at the end of days, the reason I got started on this was in the Pentateuch itself, there's three big poems that divide up the sections of the Pentateuch. The first poem is at the end of Abraham's family, at the end of Genesis 49. There is a prophecy. Jacob calls his family together and says, I want to tell you what's going to happen to you in the end of days. And Jacob tells his son Judah, one will come from you, from between whose feet the scepter will not depart. And he goes on and describes him as a lion. As a lion, as he crouches down, who will rouse him? And in the rest of the Bible, when we look in Revelation and we talk about the lion of the tribe of Judah, we learn about the lion of the tribe of Judah in Genesis 49. It's the very first of those three poems in the very first part of our Bible. Is the lion of the tribe of Judah significant? Oh, I'll say yes. In the second of those big poems, we have more prophecy about the lion. And so we know that this lion that the prophecy is about, when it's actually Balak causes Balaam to go out and he sends him out to try to curse Israel. And he can't do it. And he comes back, and Balaam calls together a large group of people and says to them, I want to tell you what's going to happen in what this people will do to you. And this people is the Jews that are coming into the promised land. I want to tell you what this people are going to do to you in the end of days. In the end of days. And so suddenly now we've got more prophecy about this lion of the tribe of Judah. We've got him going down to Egypt and coming back. We've got all sorts of prophecy that Jesus fulfilled, literally fulfilled in his life. And it all points to something that God's going to do. Each of those sections of the Pentateuch has a pointer to something way out in the future that God's going to do. And the Old Testament is founded on having to believe those promises to be saved. They had the law, but the law couldn't save them. The people in the Old Testament who were saved because they believed God about the promises that he was making. How do you and I get saved? We believe God about the promise he has made for us. If we receive what happened on the cross, if we believe that, we will receive the promise. We're saved by believing God's promises.
So actually, salvation hasn't changed a bit.
Not a bit.
Not one bit from the very beginning.
God has not changed, nor has his plan for salvation, nor has his plan for judgment. It's the same God. There is absolutely no difference in the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament. He redeems us in exactly the same way.
You believe if something is coming, to believe there's something good to come.
Yeah. It's
the same,
yeah.
same belief.
He wants us to trust him with our lives. He wants me to believe that no matter what, I can trust him. And if we do that, we will earn a reward. We'll get to cast crowns in front of Jesus in heaven. It's a magnificent picture.
The Roman government that exiled John to Patmos.
Yeah. So, so far we've got one bullet point this morning. I've got to go pretty promptly here. So
Rather important, but
yeah, it is pretty important. So the suffering of the saints will give way to their eventual vindication. There it is. The suffering will give way to vindication. We're still in the process. The book of John, the book of Revelation, is still in the process of answering the question posed by the saints under the altar in heaven, who stick their heads out and ask, how long, Lord, how long before you reveal your glory and we have full vindication? We're still answering that question.
Bob, tell me something. Why would that occur if they've been brought into heaven. And they're sitting there before the Trinity. Why would they ask that question when they know that God's going to do it on his own time frame? He'll let them know, then keep popping up and saying, how much longer? How much longer? Would you guys get out there and just cool it?
That's why we're reading this book. That's to deal with that
Yeah,
issue.
right.
So only to those to whom God reveals the mystery can understand the meaning of this history. As we walk through the things that are happening in our world, in our days, the only way that we can understand it is by reading through scripture, by trusting God, and by knowing that what's happening is fulfilling prophecy. That what's going on is what God says is to be going on. Yes, we have tribulation. We know we have tribulation, but we've been told that we will. And so there's nothing here that should be a surprise. Fred was at a Bible study last night, and we were talking about Daniel, and one of the big things of the book of Daniel is Daniel knows who's in charge of who's in charge. God is. God is sovereign. God's the one who allowed Nebuchadnezzar to come to Judah and take Daniel and his friends into captivity in Babylon. That was about 10 years before Jerusalem fell, before Israel was sent into captivity in Babylon. So teenage Daniel gets sent there 10 years ahead of time. He's sort of the advance guard, he and his buddies. And he lived an incredible life, and he lived it because he knew he could trust the God who was in charge of who was in charge, in spite of the fact that he was taken by force. He didn't volunteer to go to Babylon, trust me. In spite of the fact that he was taken by force, forced into a kind of life that a Hebrew boy would have never chosen for himself. Despite all of that, he went and did exactly what Joseph did when he was taken into Egypt. He rose, he worked hard and studied and rose up in the midst of that foreign place and became a leader and was able to effect what God wanted him to do. He was able to provide salvation for his whole family when the famine came, and he was able to provide a place for them so that they would not starve to death. Daniel, we still marvel at Daniel's faithfulness, taking him because he's praying to be put to death the following morning, being cast into the lion's den and having to spend the night in there watching the lions lick their chops. What an incredibly faithful life he lived. And so you and I have a reason to understand what's going on in our lives. Yeah, we got trouble. Did Jesus say we're going to have trouble?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, that's exactly what he said. Did the Old Testament people have trouble? Well, yeah, they sort of did. Daniel did for sure. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, I can't imagine what it would be like to be thrown into a furnace that was so hot it would singe the clothes of the people that were throwing you in there, and you didn't singe your eyebrows. And to be in there and to walk around with that fourth person who was in there, I can't think of anybody that would be other than Christ. What an incredible thing. So God reveals that mystery to us so that we can understand what's going on in history, so that we have a reason to be faithful, so that we have a reason to trust him for what he's promised us.
Can you imagine being Nebuchadnezzar and all of a sudden he's sitting there watching those guys and they're in there twiddling their thumbs or whatever, just hanging out, and they come out and there's not a thing scorched or anything on them. What Nebuchadnezzar had to be thinking, my God, did God get Nebuchadnezzar's attention in a heartbeat?
Yeah, he did. And he got his attention again a little later on when he sent him out to the field to graze.
Yeah, it's a mule.
Yeah, go out there and have a little grass there, brother.
Yeah,
It's just hard to believe that he could go back to that.
And
You
he,
saw him come out of that furnace and
yeah.
you never think he'd make another mistake.
Yeah, you'd think that would make an impression, a lasting impression. Yeah.
Hey, can't you remember day before yesterday and here you're at it again? Well, hey, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
With sin, how often do we get repetitive, even after we try to behave? It's for about as long as we can remember, which is a short cycle, and then bang, we're at times we're doing whatever.
So I'm going to read this last bullet point, and this sort of makes the case that we've been talking about all morning. It says, the reason the revelation can be made is that the death, resurrection, and exaltation of Christ have inaugurated or have begun the latter days, the end of days, Ba'acharit Hayamim from the Old Testament, and the fulfillment of the prophecies from Daniel, which were to occur in the latter days. Daniel's prophecy was sealed up until the latter days. And so John is realizing that this vision he's seeing and these scrolls that he keeps seeing, this is the prophecy of Daniel that was sealed up, that he is now seeing unsealed because the latter days have come. Daniel looked forward to the latter days, wrote prophecy about what was going to happen in the latter days, sealed up prophecy about the latter days. John is sitting here in the middle of the latter days, realizing that what he's seeing in these visions is what Daniel sealed up is now being unsealed. That right there should be enough for you and I to believe that we can trust God.